Everyone, welcome to the Springfield Township Board of Trustees regular meeting. It's February the 12th, 2019 at approximately 5:30 p.m. May we please have the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Harlow.
Present.
Mr. Burning.
Present.
Ms. McFarland will not be here tonight.
And tonight for our Pledge of Allegiance, we have some special guests, a couple guys from Troop 857, Alex Davidson and Graydon Laird, and from Troop 400, Donald Veith. All three of them are getting their citizenship and community badge, and also Donald's getting his communications badge. So would you guys lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thanks, guys. First on our agenda tonight is a presentation by Mr. Ted Hubbard, Hamilton County Engineer. Mr. Hubbard, would you like to come up and give us your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Burning. Mark, I appreciate it. My name's Ted Hubbard. I'm the Hamilton County Engineer. We've been partnering with Springfield Township over the years to try to get funding to improve Winton Road. And, we've got great partners with Springfield Township. Chris Gilbert's been a great help. And I can't say enough about Mike Gould, who's done a great job for us. We were able to get actually, we have three projects that we were able to secure funding for in order to improve Winton Road. The first was the resurfacing in the area from Sarbrook to Green Hills. We were able to get an Ohio Public Works Commission loan that helped us spread that over several years, the cost over several years. We expected that project to cost us more than $3.1 million. The bids came in at about 2.8, and it looks like we're almost finished with that portion of the project. As you can see, it's much better than it was. Actually, the actual cost that we anticipate will be less than the 2.8 million. So we're looking pretty good, and it looks like we may even pay the loan off immediately, which would be good. It'd be nice to get it off the books. Second project is a federal aid project that we were able to get money with urban STP funding, and that's the widening of Winton Road from Fleming to Sarbrook. This is much needed, as you know. I mean, trying to get into the YMCA and the churches that are adjacent to Winton Road's pretty difficult. You're making left turns in front of the fast lane traffic, so that project has been bid, and the cost, the bid amount was $4,062,000. It's higher than the engineer's estimate, but it's not high enough to force us to rebid. So we're moving forward. A lot of the water main work was already done, has already started. You'll see the contractor out there working very shortly. He's going to start again in the widening process, then we'll begin. We anticipate that project to be done by the end of this year. Now, I do want to qualify that. It depends on the weather, obviously, because we continue to have if we have a wet construction season like we did last year, that could delay things. Okay, and then the third project that we bid is the rehabilitation of the bridge over the Winton Road Bridge over the Winton Woods Lake. That project also, we have loan money for that work, and we anticipate that to be done this year as well. So by the end of 2019, if the weather permitting, we'll have Winton Road virtually complete. So I'll be glad, because I live in Springfield Township.
Yeah.
Oh, I live in Springfield Township.
Yes.
I can't go anywhere without hearing about it. So it's something that
We get blamed also.
that includes home.
We get blamed also.
I know you do. I know you do. I do have some other good news too, though. We were hoping last year that we'd get North Bend Road resurfaced from Daly Road to Center Hill. That will be done. That's part of our 2018 resurfacing program. It didn't get finished, again, because of weather. So that should happen. And we're looking to do we're hoping that we're going to be able to do some additional resurfacing in the township Lee Crest Road is one we're looking at. We've gone out to the utility companies to see what kind of work they anticipate in that area. And then the other is, well, we're looking at Springdale Road too, from Seasons to Green Hills. I don't know if we'll be able to do the whole thing. It depends on the cost. And then the other is West Kemper Road. Now, I know part of that's in Springfield and part of that's in Coleraine. We're going to probably start to the west and work our way east, but those are some of the projects that we're looking at. So with that, I would take any I'll take any questions you might have.
Ted, the only one I would have is, one, I appreciate all the work your department's done for the county roads in Springfield Township. Made an immense difference. And I'm glad to hear about Daly as well, or North Bend, I'm sorry. But the one area that probably maybe not full resurfacing, but just some attention is Galbraith Road between Winton and just a little east of Cross County is obviously is pretty rough at this point. And I think obviously we know why. There's a lot of trucks and stuff that head down Galbraith to get on Cross County and push that pavement around. But is there anything that we can do temporarily without full resurfacing to fix some of those really rough areas, especially, again, between that area between Ronald Reagan and Winton?
Yeah, there's a lot of shoving going on, and that pavement, in fact, I was just talking about that Sunday. That pavement's not that old.
Right.
It shouldn't be shoving, but we'll take a look at it and see what we can do. There might be some, I don't know if I don't think we're in a position where we can go in and, totally resurface,
Well,
but
for
we
sure.
might be able to do some grinding.
Yeah.
There might be something, we'll take a look at that,
Okay.
Chris.
And I don't know-
It's funny, because I noticed it too. I mean,
Yeah.
I've noticed it as well.
Just immediately outside off the exit ramps too, and that's probably still state right away, frankly, I guess.
The ramps are, there's
There's some really rough areas right when you come off the exit onto Galbraith as well, so.
this is my speculation. Part of that, I think, we don't have we're not going to get one either, but we don't have a full interchange at Winton Road with the Reagan Highway.
Right.
And so a lot of that truck traffic's got to use Galbraith Road to complete all the moves. And I think that's part of what's, if you're southbound on Winton and you want to go eastbound on 126, you're going through Winton and Galbraith,
Yeah.
and you're heading down into that interchange. And so, and if you're westbound on, the moves. If you're westbound on Ronald Reagan Highway, you've got to get off at Galbraith, and
Right.
So there's a lot of that truck traffic that's being diverted onto Galbraith Road, which is causing, I think, the shoving.
I agree.
I think that's probably that's causing it. So no, I've noticed it myself. We'll
Okay.
see what we can do on it.
Okay.
I will be glad. I know not to change the subject,
Yeah.
but North Bend Road, I'm going to be glad to see that resurface.
Oh, for sure.
Because that desperately needs it, and so, and we're also talking to Cincinnati about, we have a couple sections from Daly Road west to Hamilton, so we're, Fred Schlimm is talking with them about partnering maybe to try to get that section of North Bend done as well, but the eastern portions from Daly to Center Hill is predominantly in the township, and so that will be done.
I appreciate that.
That will be done.
We appreciate Winton Road because obviously that's the biggest thoroughfare in the township. I know Hamilton's also busy, but that seems to be the one that has more traffic than anywhere else. And it was obviously getting pretty bad there, especially up north of Fleming before you guys got in there.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Mark, the two projects that I think needed to be implemented, the two most serious projects were Winton Road and Westwood Northern Boulevard. And I'm really pleased that we were able to get the funding to get those two done. They both take a pounding. I know Westwood Northern Boulevard's in Green Township, and I know Tony Rosiello and company, though, it's pretty important to them, but I'm glad we were able to get that done. So.
And I know obviously north of the bridge is Green Hills, but.
Well, we have part of it.
And from what I understand, even though I know it's not the county, I think the Village of Green Hills is going to redo their section 2 in front of their commercial area, which is good because it's almost unnavigable at this point.
Well, anyway, when we're done, at least, it would have been, when we're done, we're going to have, and the 5-lane section, I think, is going to be real helpful, too.
Yeah.
You'll be able to get into St. Bart's a lot easier, into Christian Church as well, and then the YMCA. And I think it's going to
See a
help.
lot of accidents there right at the Y.
Please?
See a lot of accidents,
accidents.
rear
Oh, I
ends
know.
at the Y.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely been a problem. And, we started this effort back in the 90s. I mean, we had a corridor study, And we talk, and we are implementing, I mean, really, we're following the corridor study pretty much. The only thing we're not going to be able to do is provide that fifth lane up by the northernmost access to Winton Woods. And that's primarily because that land is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. For us to buy it, that's going to be a major, you're buying parkland from the Army Corps of Engineers. That's pretty difficult
You would think to
challenge.
make a road improvement, you wouldn't even have to buy it if the Army
Yeah, well.
Corps of Army Engineers owns it. But I know, you gotta deal with it.
Yeah,
That's how big government works. Smaller government's a little easier
I
to
would have,
maneuver.
but, maybe someday, but right now, it's not in the picture. But, and so that's what we have. We will be having our annual meeting with township and county officials here in Springfield Township. So it's a central location, and it works out pretty well. So we will be here. So
Happy to have it.
hopefully we'll see you all there.
I plan on attending.
I plan on it.
Please?
I plan on attending.
Great, Mark.
We'll see you there.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Ted.
Ted.
Thank you,
for everything
Mr.
guys do.
Hubbard.
Appreciate it.
If you, anytime you need an update or anything, please feel free to give me a call. Don't have far to travel. Thank you
sir.
much.
Thanks, Ted.
Next on our agenda is the approval minutes from the regular session on January 8, 2019, a public hearing for text amendments to the Township zoning resolution on January 15, 2019, and from a special meeting on January 23, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So move.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next on our agenda this evening, Mr. Burning, do you have a fiscal report for us?
Yes, I do. For the month ending January 31st, 2019, the township expenditures were $1,689,285.49, with receipts being $661,182.85. This left us with an ending cash balance of $17,717,781.42. That includes obligations for expenditures, payroll, regular operating costs, ongoing capital improvement projects, and investments. I do request to approval receipts, warrants, payroll expenditures, update, and current revenue reports for the period ending January 31st, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I just want everyone to know that financial reports are available for viewing at our offices here, at the administrative offices, weekdays during regular business hours, and they are on our website. You can view them 24/7. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burning. Next, moving on to departmental action and discussion items. Mr. Gilbert, do you have a report for us?
I do, Mr. Burning, thank you. This evening, I do have two action items. The first, I am kind of happy we're at this point, is, as the board is aware that we've discussed many times, both in work sessions and I think at a previous regular meeting of the board, we have been looking at making some improvements to both the Grove Banquet Hall and the Senior Community Center. They are, at this point, at least the Grove is many decades old, but for us, our utilization is about 3 decades. About 30 years we've been utilizing that building. The Senior Community Center is 20-plus years. The interior of those buildings have experienced a lot of wear and tear over the years. In order to remain viable, we're going to have to make some interior improvements to those two facilities, mainly cosmetic, but there is some structural and mechanical things that we would have to do, but mostly cosmetic improvements. So, and instead of piecemealing those capital improvements together over a subsequent many number of years, we are looking at doing one fail swoop comprehensive project to make the needed improvements to those two facilities. In conjunction with that, we are in need of an outdoor entertainment area, and Kim in Arts Connect has done a fantastic job of bringing events and community programs to the township. And for so many years, we've rented temporary stages and things for those events. We are looking to construct an outdoor stage amphitheater between this building and the Senior Community Center on their soccer field. And as a result, we went through a process to engage an architectural firm for both the interior improvements of the Senior Center and Community Center and Grove Banquet Hall, as well as the amphitheater, we sent out a request for qualifications to various architectural firms. After a pretty extensive interview process, and our committee made up a staff that was looking at the various RFQs, have decided that Michael Schuster and Associates, or what we refer to as MSA Architects, was the firm that we wanted to engage with. And as a result, you have before you tonight a contract with MSA, and the request is to authorize the administrator to enter into that contract with MSA. And I think it's worth noting that while these projects are definitely needed, and to both allow those two facilities to remain viable, and I think that if you looked into our budget, you would realize that well over $200,000 a year is brought in from those two facilities in rental revenue. So in order to allow that rental revenue to continue to flow in, we have to make improvements to those facilities to make them marketable for rental purposes. Then additionally, I think for us to provide an outdoor entertainment venue for our residents is something that is much needed given the growth and the experiences that Arts Connect has brought to the community. I think it's well overdue for a venue such as that. And the best part about all of this is that the township has something known as tax increment financing revenue in place that will allow us to finance these projects with existing tax dollars that are earmarked toward capital improvements only, that will not affect the township's general operating revenue. So we'll be able to make these improvements with existing tax dollars that it will not negatively impact our level of service that we provide now. So it's really a win-win, I think, both for the community as well as for Arts Connect and for the individuals that utilize those two facilities. You just heard Ted Hubbard here before indicating that they're having their annual Township Association and County Engineer Dinner here. Well, that's going to be at the Grove Banquet Hall. So those two facilities are used quite a bit by the public. A lot of nonprofits use it, obviously for governmental purposes, as TED is. And I think the outdoor amphitheater stage will allow us to expand what Arts Connect provides to the community, all again with not additional taxes, but utilizing existing tax revenue that doesn't impact our general operating revenue. So I think it's probably the best of both worlds.
Well, too, and we're able to rent out the Grove Hall for weddings, and it's nice venue for a lot of township residents and other people in the area, and the revenue from that helps offset
It does.
the cost of owning those buildings. So it's kind of, we have a nice symbiosis there, I think.
The renting those two facilities, actually, that revenue by renting those facilities cover the operational expenses of operating them.
Yeah.
So again, I think making the justification to invest in these buildings is pretty easy, given the revenue that's generated, as well as the benefit that they provide to the community as a whole.
And the people that rent the facilities for weddings and such have been very supportive and positive with the results of that. And for that to continue, obviously, we need to upgrade the building
Right, and then
at this point.
the amphitheater itself, we would rent temporary stages, and if we'd have inclement weather and we had to cancel the performance, well, we still had to pay for those rental of those stages. So I think providing this permanent outdoor theater, one thing is it's going to prevent us from having to do that, but then moreover, and the more important reason to do it, is to provide a better venue for our residents to enjoy community events. So with that, unless there's any other questions or discussions, I would ask for a motion to allow the administrator to enter into an agreement with MSA to provide architectural and design services for the Grove Banquet Hall, the Senior Community Center, and to design the outdoor amphitheater.
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Harlaw?
Aye.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next action item I have is a liquor permit hearing request. It is a transfer that I understand it from River City North to Colping Ballpark LLC. And I don't believe there's any objections, is there?
No objection, just transfer of ownership.
Okay. So just authorize the requisite paperwork to be sent to the High Division of Liquor Control.
I'll make a motion to that
Yeah.
effect.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, I have a few discussion items. The first on the agenda is community reinvestment area. As the board is aware, we've discussed this for, approximately a year, and it's something that's also outlined in our community neighborhood master plan, which would allow for us to designate a certain area of the township to be a community reinvestment area to encourage and incentivize development and redevelopment of existing properties. In other words, it will allow us to provide tax abatements to qualified residential and commercial developments or redevelopments so that we can encourage and foster private investment into certain areas of the township that have experienced disinvestment over several years. This is a tool commonly used by local governments to encourage development. We have a similar program in an industrial area up off of Hamilton Avenue that's referred to as an enterprise zone, which practically and functionally does the same thing. But this would allow for us to do something similar for residential development and commercial and retail, office, things of that nature. The main impetus behind this, again, is to take an area that is otherwise in a generally valuable area and provide additional incentives to encourage development. I think in this case, we have reached out to the school district and asked for their support, and in principle, they've provided that support to offer this program, which, because you're offering tax abatements and incentives, they obviously have a stake in the game too, that they would be foregoing some potential revenue if a development were to occur, but they also realize that in the short term, by foregoing that revenue, there's a long-term advantage to that allowing a development to come in that otherwise wouldn't without these incentives in place. So the area in which we're referring to is Ronald Reagan on the north side, south to North Bend, and then the area from Winton Road in that same sort of north-south parameter from Winton Road east over to North Bend would be essentially the area that would be considered the CRA zone. And the parameters that we're looking at is allowing for a 90% abatement for residential up to 15 years, and then a 75% abatement for commercial for up to 15 years as well. So those would be determined on a case-by-case basis depending on the level of investment and things of that nature. But again, I think this is a model, something we could potentially use in other areas of the township eventually. But this area, because of the potential of redevelopment, the potential of new development, because there's land available to do so, we felt like having the ability to provide these incentives would allow us to better market those properties to the investment community and see if we can get someone interested in providing some monetary investment in the properties in the CRA area. So there is a resolution. Actually, the first resolution on the agenda is to allow or to create the CRA zone. So unless there's any questions or concerns or comments regarding that, I think it's something that is widely used as an economic development tool throughout the state. And there's many townships in the county that already do it.
Chris, what would be the threshold amounts for, I guess I can look at the resolution, what would be the threshold amounts for this to apply, an improvement?
Okay, and I didn't mention that, so I was remiss, Mr. Hunwell. For residential, the minimum investment would have to be $25,000 in redevelopment in order to qualify. For commercial, it would be $50,000. The reason being is because anything less than that, the abatement just wouldn't be worth the application process to go through to get your tax abatement in place. Because the abatement is only on the incremental difference of value. So if a property is already valued at a certain amount, what you're abating is just the incremental difference in improved value. So obviously with new development, there's no value currently, then you're capturing all of that. But with redevelopment, if your property's worth, say, $100,000 and you make an investment of another 100 and now it's worth 200, your abatement is only on that $100,000 incremental difference. So you have to have some sort of substantial investment to make the abatement, frankly, even noticeable. And there is an application process and a fee to go through in order to apply for and receive the actual abatement. And because of that, we want to make sure that whatever incentive that person receives, that business receives, is obviously exceeds whatever cost would be involved in applying for the abatement to begin with. that's why those thresholds are set the way they are, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Okay, I agree with that. Thank
So-
you.
Any questions regarding that, Laura? I don't know if you have anything to say regarding the CRA zone. She was very instrumental in reviewing the resolution and the process. It's a very cumbersome process to look at through the Ohio Revised Code, and just like most things in Ohio law, you have to look at various different sections and cobble something together to even understand what it means. This was no exception, so I appreciate her review and helping us get to this point, so.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good program, and as Chris said, the minimums for the reinvestment are important. It sounds, it might sound a little high if someone's looking at it, but it won't make any difference if you don't.
Exactly. And these recommendations were also something that was developed in meetings with Hamilton County Development Company, who, because we are a township and the county has to approve these abatement policies, we will have to use HCDC as sort of the administrator of our program. So in working with them, they also recommended these thresholds. In their experience, because I know that Colerain Township has a CRA zone, Anderson Township has a CRA zone, and in their experience, having these thresholds is necessary in order to make the program viable and successful, so. The next thing from a discussion standpoint is the West College Hill Community Renewal Plan. I know Kathleen Kennedy has been, and Mike Gould has been working very closely with the County Planning Department to come up with this plan for West College Hill. As a board is aware, this is a neighborhood where we have been working extensively with Habitat for Humanity to make some substantial investments into that neighborhood. And I know that those two have been working very closely with the County Planning Department to come up with this renewal plan. So I'll turn it over to Kathleen to kind of talk through some of the details of that plan.
Mr. Gilbert. Back in April of last year, Mike Gould and I applied together on behalf of the township for a mini planning grant, which is offered through Hamilton County Planning and Development. And while we didn't receive the actual funding that was requested, Planning and Development felt that it was such a worthy cause that they decided to donate their time to this plan. So it's been a lot of work in collaboration between the township and Hamilton County Planning and Development. The Port Authority has been very helpful, and Habitat for Humanity. So the plan itself addresses a lot of different issues, including vacant and tax delinquent properties, addressing the building of affordable housing and the need for zoning overlay district in that area. So the plan is almost finished. I think we're just kind of buttoning up some last minute things, but we have invited every resident of West College Hill to a community input session, which will be held on Monday, February 25th at 6:30 p.m. at the West College Hill Neighborhood Services Center. So I just wanted to mention.
What time was that?
6:30, Joe.
February 25th.
That's Monday, February 25th. So just wanted to mention that date to anyone who's interested.
The plan, which I think is important work, if anyone's familiar at all with that neighborhood, it's unique in that it has some historical significance from a socioeconomic standpoint, but more importantly, purely from a land use planning standpoint, it's a nightmare. What I mean by that is a lot of those properties were developed over time and years, frankly, probably without any oversight or permitting, and therefore you have a lot of odd-shaped lots, a lot of lots that have property lines that frankly shouldn't be there because you can't build on them. There's lots that are 25 foot wide, a lot of lots that are 25 foot wide. So what do you do with a lot like that? So this plan will allow for some very sort of flexible development guidelines to permit that neighborhood to encourage development where there's an interest. And it's just, there's no one size fits all code that really would fit there. So this plan does a lot of things, as well as bringing in entities and agencies like Habitat, but more importantly, will create a land use plan that is specific for that neighborhood. And if there's ever a neighborhood that needed a specific land use plan, it's this one. So I appreciate the work Mike and Kathleen have put in working with the county. It's going to be much needed, and it's going to provide some abilities for development to happen in the neighborhood that frankly couldn't have previous. So next, looking at the personnel update. In administration, we did have a new hire of Kathy Hauser as part-time receptionist secretary. Her date of hire is January 7th, 2019, and the pay rate of $17.50 per hour. The anticipation is that Kathy will go full-time come April. Our current zoning development services clerk will be retiring in April, and the anticipation is that Kathy will be replacing her upon that retirement. Looking at the fire department, we have a new hire of Ashley Eller as part-time EMT firefighter. The date of hire is January 15th, 2019. And then the hiring of Michael Stickney, part-time EMT firefighter. The date of hire is January 18th of 2019. We did see the resignation of David Folks, full-time firefighter, paramedic. His date of retirement was January 31st, 2019. And Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, I know we'll honor David at a future meeting, but he is the first full-time to retire from the Springfield Township Fire Department since its inception. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
That doesn't mean we have a lot of very old firefighters. That just means that our department is only about 20 years old. So we've now first had our very first full-time retirees. So that's, I'm not going to say exciting necessarily because we're losing a lot of institutional knowledge, but I'm glad for David. And again, I'll honor him here at a future meeting.
Yeah, Dave has served the community very well over years, and he started his career as a volunteer firefighter and then had an opportunity to fulfill his dream and be a public servant to Springfield Township, and he's done an exemplary job, and we wish him well.
Fantastic. We did have the hiring of Steve Hayden as a full-time medic firefighter, and his date is February 4th, 2019. Now, Steve was a previous part-timer for us, but was since promoted to full-time to replace David Folks, who retired. So congratulations to Steve. Looking in the police department, no activity. You guys are pretty quiet, Chief, and police over the past month. Public Works, we did have the resignation of Brad Ritelli in the Public Works Department, and we are out looking for his replacement currently, correct? No activity in the Senior Community Center, which is unusual. Generally, there's a lot of hiring and resignations and there with the hall monitors and such, but that concludes the personnel update. Next, I will turn it over to Kim for community events and programs.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that our annual Daddy-Daughter Dance two-day event, February 22nd and 23rd. Surprisingly, we actually still do have some tickets left for both evenings. And then our Mom Prom event has expanded to 2 nights, March 15th and 16th. The Saturday event is already sold out, and the 15th is well on its way. And those are at the Grove Banquet Center.
Is this the first time you've done it consecutive nights?
Not the second. We've done it for the Daddy-Daughter Dance, but this is the first time we've done it 2 nights for the Mom Prom, is because we sold out so quickly last year that the demand was there to have the second night.
Fantastic.
That's great.
The board has copies of the departmental activity reports. Unless there are any questions or concerns regarding those, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Next, before the board, we have a few resolutions. The first resolution is resolution number 17-2019, resolution establishing Springfield Township Community Reinvestment Area 1. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Harnwell.
Aye.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next is resolution number 18-2019, authorizing the private sale of junk motor vehicles which were titled to the township pursuant to revised code 4513.61 and revised code 4513.62, and which are not needed or unfit for use in any township department. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Harnwell.
Aye.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have resolution number 19-2019, authorizing the sale by internet auction of vehicles titled to the township pursuant to revised code 4513.61 and revised code 4513.62, and which are no longer needed for public use, are obsolete, or unfit for use in the police department. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Harnwell.
Aye.
Mr. Burning.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have resolution number 20-2019, declaring nuisances pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.87 at various listed properties within Springfield Township, and authorizing statutory actions necessary to abate the nuisances. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Honolo?
Aye.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
The resolution carries.
And last, we have resolution number 21-2019, agreeing to enter into the Hamilton County, Ohio amended and restated mutual aid agreement for law enforcement. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Honolo?
Aye.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
The resolution carries.
Next on the agenda is old business. Do we have any old business, Joe?
I don't have any old business, no.
Nor do I. Next would be new business.
No new business this evening.
Me either. Moving on to our, next on our agenda is citizens' participation. If there's anyone here this evening that would like to address the board, if there is, we would ask that you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You guys have said enough, haven't you? If there is no other further business before the board, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks for doing the Pledge of Allegiance, guys.